Welcome to the December 4th edition of the PFF Forecast. I'm George. I've got Brad and Ben. We are going to break down, really, there were two big games this week. The Niners, it's very sad to see Jimmy Garoppolo go down, but they ended up winning. So we're going to talk about what the future holds for the Niners without Brock Purdy. Can they actually do anything? Is that possible? Or sorry, without Jimmy Garoppolo. And the Cincinnati Bengals, they beat the Chiefs despite us betting on them. That's very sad, but we're going to talk about how real are the Cincinnati Bengals. And then, of course, we're going to guess the Week 14 lines and our best early bets. Let's rock. What is up to all the members of the printing press joining us live or listening to us afterwards? Brad is coming to us live from a hotel in Nashville. I'm live from a hotel in Arlington, Texas. And Ben Brown is the only person that is enjoying the comforts of his own home. I got a story for you guys. You know, if you go to, I went to the first half of the Dallas Cowboys Indianapolis Colts game. And the thing that I was most interested in was what was going to be the weirdest jersey that I saw, because you go to a Cowboys game, you're going to expect to see some interesting people. It's between these two. I saw a Terrell Owens jersey, but an Eagles Terrell Owens jersey, which is kind of weird to see in Dallas. But this, I think, takes the cake. It was a Dennis Rodman jersey.
Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
What's a jersey? I guess is the next question.
It's a shirt. It's a shirt jersey, right? It's like
okay.
It's not cotton. Even a real. Yeah, exactly. It's cotton. It's like Lulu, like your hat there.
There we go. There we go. Did you see any Jeff Saturday Colts jerseys or not? Is the next question.
Not a lot. I actually expected. I saw about as many Peyton Manning jerseys as I did Andrew Luck, which was a little surprising. No Saturday. A Pat McAfee jersey. That actually kind of looked game worn, which was sort of cool. But I told everyone asked, because I wasn't wearing a jersey, and they were like, who are you rooting for? And I was like, the Cowboys by at least 11 points. And
for McAfee, can a punter's jersey look game worn, or would that be like game worn on your couch?
Right. It was totally untarnished, but it looked like it was a real jersey. That was
okay.
That's what it looked like. All right, so we had two, the game on Sunday night, kind of a joke of a game, and ended up playing out as much. But the two games of the weekend were, let's start with Chiefs Bengals, because I think that's kind of the more interesting result. We had as one of our locks of the week, went 2-2 on the week. Although did CD close at 5.5? Was that where his prop ended up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
he was at 5.5.
Okay, so we missed that one. So 2-2 on the locks of the week. The Chiefs at -2.5 were one of them. They end up obviously losing that game. The Bengals win. The Bengals now 3-0 against in real record and against the spread against the Chiefs in their last three. The Chiefs come into this game and actually will exit this game by far the most efficient offense in EPA per play. Get this, guys. They are averaging 0.145 expected points added per play. The second most explosive offense in the NFL is 0.087. That is basically double the EPA per play of the next most explosive team. That's the Eagles. And then it goes Buffalo, and then the Cincinnati Bengals are in fourth. So the question is, where do the Bengals fall in the, let's just call it the AFC, and how much did this game change your opinion? Let's start with you, Ben.
So I will say, based on where I think the Buffalo Bills are right now, given their defensive injury situation, given what we've seen from Josh Allen maybe being a little bit banged up, I would have them very much on par with the Buffalo Bills coming out of the AFC. I do think Kansas City, even though they lost to Cincinnati, is probably still a tier above them, but there is something weird happening with the Cincinnati Bengals in their matchups against Kansas City that maybe we cannot quite quantify, but there definitely seems to be something real as far as how well that they've played against them, both offensively and defensively, that I think is maybe going to carry forward at least with some sort of signal as we enter in the playoff race. So I'm very comfortable, I would say, putting the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals in very much the same tier right below Kansas City, with a nod to, Cincinnati being very legitimate contenders to actually beat Kansas City on their home field in the playoffs to actually get out of the AFC once again. So I like Cincinnati. I've liked them all year. I did not back them here against the Chiefs like you guys, but I still very much think that they are very much live, I would say, to get to the Super Bowl once again, in my opinion.
So you have it Kansas City and in the first tier in the AFC.
And then we got Bills, Bengals right below, basically, is how I would have it. I'm not quite sure like the steps between the two or whatever, because obviously people are going to look at this game and say, how can you ever have, the Bengals below the Kansas City Chiefs? But that's very much how I would power rank them right now. And I very much think that, going into it, I would be very nervous facing off, or laying, I would say 3 to 3.5 with Kansas City at home against the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs.
But you, Bren?
Yeah, to me, on paper, they have fundamental issues that I thought would get exposed today, and they really didn't. I mean, Chidobe Awuzie goes down. They've had issues with Eli Apple all season, but I think the return of DJ Reader on the interior was present today, and I think they can win with Hendrickson, Reader, and Sam Hubbard and what they do up front. And then Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, their linebacker core is really strong. I'm waiting for an issue to come forward with this secondary, particularly at outside corner. Mike Hilton obviously is thought in the slot, but I just thought today was going to be that day. It kind of wasn't. They were good enough up front to mitigate those issues, but that to me, come playoff time against a game against the Bills or another game against Kansas City, I just think that'll get exposed. So I have Chiefs and Bills kind of in the top, and then I would say there's a tier of, Bengals. I think I would still include the Ravens in that group. They obviously beat them head-to-head in that AFC North division, have not played good football and lost Lamar today, but I would put them on the same plane, and then maybe probably a tier below for, Chargers and whoever else you want to throw in there, and the Titans, those type of teams.
So it's interesting because the Chiefs actually today had, in just this game against the Bengals, a better EPA per play than the Bengals did. So, how exposed were they? And that included a shout out to our dear friend, Dr. Eric Eager, who was live for that game. And I'm just wondering, you guys know Eric well, what was Eric's reaction when his Lord and Savior MVS, and I hope Eric is listening. I'm sure that he's bemoaning the loss, so he's not present. But when MVS had that drop, because that was that was an egregious one. Now you can't. We were talking about this before the podcast, Ben, how you can't just like look at singular plays and be like, oh, this play should have happened, and therefore, because Tyler Boyd dropped a stone cold touchdown as well,
right?
And there are a lot of those plays, but I guess so let's say we're thinking about Bengals Chiefs meeting up again. You've now seen three straight games, right, where this has happened, and so what do you make the spread, right? Like, okay, let's say it's not going to be on a neutral field. So let's say it's in Kansas City. That's the most likely place where they would play. Ben, what would you make the spread?
Yeah, so I mentioned it before, but I think, even laying 3.5 with Kansas City at home against Cincinnati is not a spot that I would feel all that comfortable playing, right? So I think you go back to it and you look at, where we landed here, with basically the Chiefs, I would say kind of closing at, -1.5, -2 in certain spots, 1.5 points for home field advantage, everything else considered, like you are at that 3.5, 4-point spread. But I think I would very much be taking it with the Cincinnati Bengals. And it kind of goes back to, what Brad said specifically with like the matchup situation in the Bengals secondary. Like, I expected them to miss Chidobe Awuzie today, and they very much, I would say, kind of didn't, right? Like, I thought Cam Taylor-Britt was going to be, a rookie guy that was picked on pretty heavily by Patrick Mahomes, a guy that has very much struggled, I would say, from a PFF coverage perspective. I think he has like the 10th highest, yards allowed per coverage snap since he's kind of become the starter, in week 8. And he, in a lot of ways, probably had his best game as a rookie starter here, and very much like wasn't exposed whatsoever. So it's like, if that's kind of the matchup that you're baking into the Chiefs being able to win, against the Cincinnati Bengals, like they didn't win that here. So outside of Andy Reid, gaining an edge or something in the play calling ability, like I would be concerned about the Chiefs as a 3.5-point favorite at home against the Cincinnati Bengals team right now.
But you think that's what you'd make the line?
That's what I would project the line to probably close at. Okay. And I might be wrong on that. And I might be basing too much on, this particular game in week 13, which is going to be an afterthought by, the conference championship round, or even maybe the divisional championship round. But like, that's very much where I think it's going to be, is that 3.5 or 4 point differential.
If it were in Kansas City this week, so, I mean, the Kansas City was 2.5 point favorite in Cincinnati. So, that's kind of, what is that basically saying, like 6-ish maybe would be the spread? Like, what would you have said that would be in Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
yeah.
I think, you basically bake in like 1.5 points for moving to a neutral field and then moving outside of the neutral field 1 to 1.5 or whatever. So I do think you can get at, 4.5 to 5 before this game, right? And then after that, like, I think you move it down a point just based on the fact that, like, Cincinnati, for all intents and purposes, I would say matched up really well against Kansas City this weekend.
Yeah. Are you in line with that 3.5, Brad? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think at the end of the day, if you can't get pressure on Joe Burrow, I mean, he's going to show up in the clean pocket and deliver to these receivers all day long. And that is still Kansas City's fundamental flaw, is not being able to generate a pass rush. So that's probably why they keep winning these games.
Yeah. It was interesting because you figure, I mean, Chris Jones has been the best defensive tackle in the NFL this year, and the interior of the Cincinnati Bengals not exactly wonderful, and so you were worried about that as a potential matchup. But it does seem like they do a fairly good job of Joe Burrow having enough time. And Jamar Chase, this was his first game back. Right. I am tempted. So here's how I would rank it. I still, one game does not a season make, and I think matchups are different than actually how I would power rank them. I would have Kansas City 1, would have Buffalo 2. In 3, I'm willing to put the Bengals there because you look at the other teams that are the options. Tennessee, no. Baltimore, absolutely not. Miami. I mean, Miami was the team there, and we'll talk about them in just a second. They've got obviously some flaws. I think, again, one game doesn't. But I think it's the Miami, Cincy, Baltimore kind of bucket, and whether you want to put Tennessee in there. And the way that I would describe them, that first bucket with Kansas City and Buffalo, those are the alphas, okay? And then the other, they're going to be favored, I think, barring catastrophe, against any other team. And then the rest of them are the kind of, a few things have to go right, but they're capable of beating that team, right? The rest of those teams in the AFC, I mean, you get to the Jets and the Patriots and the Chargers and the Raiders, and it's like, not that they couldn't win, but come on now. So, I very much 3.5 sounds like it should be the line, but if it's 3.5, given what we've seen, are we not betting the Bengals in that situation? I guess that's kind of my question, right? Like, so at 3.5, which side would you take?
Yeah, so I was very much on the Chiefs at -2.5 and -2 and everything, all the way down through, and it was bad and it was ugly and everything else. So, like, I would very much be on the Bengals because I do think, like, this was probably the only weekend that I haven't bet Cincinnati so far this year, and I think they're like 9-3 against the spread or whatever. And I would say, outside of the record and everything else, and everyone expecting some sort of the Super Bowl hangover curse, like, they have very much, in a lot of ways, exceeded expectations still, right? Like, they have performed above betting market expectations. And I think that they are, and I think that's probably the main reason why I do think they are in a lot of ways on the same tier as Buffalo, and very much, the side that I would be betting at +3.5 on in that given situation.
I would do the same, and it would be still though what I did tonight to double down. I would probably bet Chiefs money line live if they went down like they did 14-3 tonight, and I felt smart about that for a while. But yeah, if I was over a field goal on either side, I would then sit there and wait to try to hit a middle. Just knowing when these two teams play, it's going to come down to who has the ball last, who can make a play late, who's going to win this game by one score. I think we're going to get that every time these teams play each other.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. That's it's the right line. It's the right line, but I wonder where you would see sharp money come in on, if at all. That is a really tricky one, but I think I'm with you guys. At 3.5, the other teams, and that it's interesting to think about that with, say, the Ravens or the Dolphins, the Dolphins I think are a really interesting one. They're without Teron Armstead today. Nick Bosa, probably had a nice game in terms of getting MVP. I think it's 14-1 entering the week. Defensive Player of the Year, not MVP, getting that award today. So there was some, and Jalen Waddle goes out in that game. Tua looked like he was in a, complete pit of misery. They're not going to face the San Francisco defense every single time they play. But it does kind of feel like the Bengals are the one team that you could make a case only being 3-point underdogs against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Let's transition to the Dolphins-Niners game, because I'll throw this out here. So I got a text. I don't get many football texts from my mom. She sent me a text. She said, "Niners won!" ! But Garofalo, Grafalo, and sad face. And that was Garoppolo had about as bad a day in that text message as Brad is having with his internet in Tennessee right now.
True.
And you bring Brock Purdy in and you figure, oh my gosh, this is going to be bad. He goes 25 for 40. Actually had a PFF grade pending review that could have been way worse.
Right.
Looking like it's in the low 60s. Had a pending review again, a turnover worthy play. Did kind of what you would expect from a Niners quarterback. Average depth of target, just 5.8 yards down the football field. Only 44% of his yards coming through the air, 56% of them coming after the catch. A little bit of a longer average time to throw than you might expect at 2.53. But all said and done, for a guy that was Mr. Irrelevant, not like totally terrible. So, Ben, I'll ask you this. Did this game tell you more about what the Niners can do with me at quarterback, or more about how real or not real the Dolphins are?
Yeah, I think it's the first one, right? I do think that San Francisco is going to be a very quarterback-friendly scheme, and they're going to be able to win football games with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Even and kind of like you said, I think the one downside to him, especially at quarterback over Jimmy Garoppolo in this game, was the 3 sacks or whatever, right? And I think that was kind of the longer depth or the longer time to throw and those sorts of things kind of playing out or whatever, and him maybe not being fully comfortable in what they were trying to execute offensively, but I still think Miami, when it's all said and done, can get there. I think that they very much have, a pretty legitimate offensive setup. I think Mike McDaniel is very much pushing all the right buttons from Tua, and maybe he didn't necessarily get, the top end range of Tua's output in this particular performance. Part of that, I think, is, some situations where interceptions kind of went off of, wide receivers' hands and obviously going to, reflect an impact on Tua in a negative light, but maybe shouldn't be, a full situation where he takes the full amount of blame or something like that. So I think it's more that San Francisco can very much still be legitimate contenders in the NFC with Brock Purdy at quarterback. I do think that Miami is probably, in my opinion, the 4th best team in the AFC, kind of like we just power ranked before. I would have them still above, a team like Baltimore right now, just given where both offenses are probably going to be at, especially if Lamar Jackson's not in the fold. So I'm not downweighting the Dolphins too much, because I do think they are a team that very much presses in a lot of situations in order to maybe not care about how the final score turns out, and definitely tries to maximize their win probability when they actually have that potential to win the football game. And I think that's why you saw a little bit of a wider margin in this particular matchup against San Francisco. But I think it still speaks to the fact that they can very much beat some of, if not the best teams in the NFL, straight up on a neutral field. So I like Miami, but I think it definitely bumps up San Francisco quite a bit, from my perspective, in relation to where I had them before this game.
Brad, you're back from the Wi-Fi
Yes.
dead zone. I'm going to ask you a slightly different question here, which is like, do you think that the Niners actually do roll with Brock Purdy here? And like, if so, what do you make of them given what you saw today?
I don't think you can. Like you said, Mr. Irrelevant. I know he was decent today, but we've seen the young quarterback come in. No one knows who he is, what he does, what he represents. Iowa State legend, got worse every year in college for some reason. Look at his PFF grades, they go the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to look into like claiming someone off a practice squad or finding a veteran or doing something. I don't think they can lean on Brock Purdy and go the rest of the way with him. But he is an interesting prospect, right? I mean, he was like a guy they thought was going to become a dude, and slowly just got worse and worse as time went on in college. But I will say, though, I think I learned more about the Niners today. I mean, they're a force. They're the best team in the NFC. I think we've tossed that around a little bit. I think that is the fact of the matter. But for Miami, they had some offensive line issues today, some injuries today. And we talked about it earlier. If Buffalo doesn't have Von Miller early in the playoffs or Gregory Rousseau isn't 100%, there isn't a team like Dallas or the 49ers in the NFC that can just annihilate you with 4 rushers. And so maybe Miami can get away with it by just outscoring AFC opponents and not having a team that can get home with 4. But if they are playing a team that can do that, I mean, Tua was not good today, but I also just think he hasn't really seen that. I mean, the Jets game, I guess, but he missed that game with injury, so we'll see them play it the second time. But that, I think, is just the difference. And I learned a lot more about the Niners today than I think Miami. Miami, to me, is a mid-tier AFC team. The Niners, to me, well, they got to figure out quarterback, but are the best team in the conference.
So you're saying best team in the conference with the question mark at quarterback?
Yeah, because I don't think it can be Purdy, but I'm not the biggest Jimmy G guy in the world either. Like, I think they're that good of a team. It's just the trenches. They're just so much better on both sides of the ball in the trenches. And then you have the offensive mind of Kyle Shanahan. You need something at quarterback, but it doesn't seem to matter how good that player is, at least to a degree.
Okay, so who's out there? Because, I mean, you think about CJ Beathard actually played today, interestingly, for the Jaguars. Nick Mullins, I guess.
Nick Mullins could come back.
Vikings. He's on the Vikings. He's on the Vikings. So I don't know. They traded him to the Raiders traded him to the Vikings. No, it's a good point. I mean, obviously the trade deadline is passed, so it has to be someone who can just sign. I don't even know. I mean, are you like ringing up Jay Cutler? Like who you calling?
Wow, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, a return.
That would be the best situation you could ever walk into. Say, Andrew, this is the time.
Wouldn't that
Come
be
back
crazy?
to San Francisco.
We don't hear from Andrew Luck. Okay, so let me make this pitch here. Okay, it's the Bay Area. Andrew Luck went to Stanford.
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey went to Stanford. Now they're in San Francisco. All the great offensive line, amazing weapons. Andrew Luck shows up out of nowhere and joins that team. That would be, I think it's one of the crazier things that would make sense if we were like tracing it back. There's no way. Andrew Luck probably hasn't thrown a football in 3 years.
What about like Drew Brees? Do you give Drew Brees a call?
I'd rather have Brock Purdy. Drew Brees is doing marketing like spoof hits for
points bet.
He's struck by lightning, so he's
So allegedly.
This is a betting. There's a couple good ones in the chat that I'll mention here, but this is a betting podcast. That is, whoever is running points bet marketing deserves a raise, because that sportsbook is like completely irrelevant. And they found a way to get in the news that their new lightning bets, their in-game lightning bets, had like juiced up in-game betting by more than double. 108% was the quote that we heard. And the way they got it out there was by pretending Drew Brees got hit by lightning. Which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, it was only the second time that he was hit by lightning. Apparently, the thing on his face is from a lightning hit as well.
Okay. Okay.
Full of it. Here's some thoughts. Dave in the chat said Colin Kaepernick. Steve said
that's
Cam
not
Newton.
that bad, actually.
The reunion?
I mean, the tough thing is that I think Shanahan is going to look. Shanahan, I think, would rather have like a Brock Purdy who's just going to run. He'll take anybody that'll just run his offense, right? I think that's why we, sort of have the Garoppolo. Why we don't feel like they've fallen. I'm not quite with you, Brad. I think that quarterback matters too much in the playoffs. So I would still have. I would go Philly, Dallas, and then the Niners. Just because I mean, look, I know that Jimmy isn't amazing, a hell of a lot better than Brock Purdy is. How would you power rank the NFC, Ben?
I do think it's Eagles, Cowboys, given the Jimmy Garoppolo injury situation. I would have both of them ahead of San Francisco. Outside of that, I do think San Francisco definitely is in the next tier. And then I think it's like Minnesota. Basically, Minnesota is kind of it. So I do think after tonight's performance, like Dallas can very much dominate the trenches, and I think they probably have the best quarterback in the NFC right now as well. And I think that's going to, help them win a lot of football games that a lot of people maybe don't project them to win. So I think it's probably Dallas is going to get out of the NFC if I was going to pick it right now. But I think Philadelphia is the only other team that could potentially match up well enough with them, in the trenches and the quarterback position to potentially knock them off. So those are the two teams I like. I've been lower on San Francisco though than, both of you guys, both the betting market and everyone else too. So I'm willing to be wrong on that, but I do think they are definitely, a tier below with Brock Purdy or Colin Kaepernick or whoever else they're going to have a quarterback come, the NFC playoff time, I would say.
But with Andrew Luck, they're Super Bowl favorites. Let's just
with Big Ben, they're in the mix.
Oh no, that was not the name I was hoping to hear. Not the one I was looking for. Yeah, let's avoid that one. I'd rather have like Eli Manning come back.
It's not bad.
Not a terrible option either. Ben, you've been fantastic as usual. I've heard a rumor that you're going to be hopping on VSiN here late this evening, and you will be talking Vikings. So I encourage anyone out there that wants to hear some real talk about the Vikings who covered today. Thank God.
They did cover, no doubt, never a doubt either, right? I mean, like,
never really.
What do they want from them?
I mean, and you are always living dangerously when you're playing Mike White. So
right.
They overcame that. PFF_Ben Brown, always a fantastic follow. Get his great content on the PFF app and PFF.com. Ben, have a great rest of your evening, brother. All right, we're going to guess week 14 lines here in just a second. As I just mentioned, go to PFF.com and the PFF app. Get yourself a PFF subscription just in time, PFF Plus, for the fantasy playoff run or the actual playoff run, where you can bet on all games and player props using PFF's betting and fantasy tools, plus get all of the exclusive written content across fantasy betting and in-depth analysis from all of the wonderful content creators at PFF. So go jump on the app. You can find it on the iOS store by searching PFF or at PFF.com. Also, Brothrow. If you are in a place where you can't bet legally on sports online, go to brothrow.com/PFF. It is no vig. So you bet $100, you win $100. And you do that by betting with other people. So you find someone who is willing to bet, take the other side of your bet. You bet with them, and then they pay you when you win on Venmo or Cash App or whatever. I can vouch for it. It actually works. I was kind of skeptical and tried it out. I was like, see if I get paid here. And I got paid every single time. So brothrow.com/PFF to sign up. You need that link because they're not just letting anybody on right now. So go hit up that link. And then last but not least, our friends at Western and Southern Financial. Unless you're living under a rock, you've probably seen that the economy is a little shaky. So you might want to have a game plan for the future and how to make sure your money is in the best possible spot, whether you're trying to start a family, wondering how that you're going to buy your first home, trying to figure out life insurance, investment, retirement solutions, whatever it is, it's best to have a game plan. So go to Western and Southern by going to westernsouthern.com/PFF to get your custom built game plan started right now. All right. Week 14. I can't believe it's actually week 14. Arjun is here. Brad is in and out. He just I think he just decided, he was like, you know what? It was kind of a rough week last week for us. I'm out. So we'll see if we can get Brad back. We're going to march on as we do every single week. We guess the lines, and then we decide based on what the actual line is, whether we're going to bet it or not. It was a rough week last week. We had a couple of birds in the Falcons and the Seahawks. Those did not. We got wonderful closing line value. Wonderful. Unfortunately, the Seahawks couldn't actually cover against Josh Warford. Really, the only thing that I got right in looking back at it, which is very surprising, were the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos, and felt like a complete moron other than that. So we'll wipe that slate clean, Arjun, and we'll move on to week 14. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. Definitely didn't have the greatest week with spread picks, but I still can't tell if my picks were as bad as Brad's Wi-Fi right now. So hopefully
It's
we
hard.
bounce back.
The Wi-Fi isn't, so
It is hard to be.
My picks last week were worse than the Wi-Fi. I'm confident in that assessment.
Yeah, so I went 2-4, Brad 1-3, Arjun 2-5. I'm still marching forward with a record of 30-20-2. Brad 23-21-2, and Arjun 21-20-3. This is no better time to turn around. Unlucky week number 13. Let's call it that. All right. We'll start off with Thursday evening. And on Thursday evening, we have the Las Vegas Raiders playing the Los Angeles Rams. This will be once again without Matthew Stafford, I believe, also without Cooper Kupp. I'm guessing without it is without Aaron Donald as well. So a very banged up Rams team. Arjun, we'll start with you.
So I made this Raiders -5.
Yeah, I had Raiders -4.5.
I had Raiders -5.5. And it is Raiders -5.5. Arjun, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I'm gonna lay off the Rams are a little bit spunky today. Came out a little bit better than I thought. Raiders and Seahawks, both similar defenses, both are pretty bad. Rams had some success moving the ball. They will be at home on a short week, so kind of tough to back the Raiders. It feels like at their peak right now, coming off 3 straight wins. So, I feel like this could be a good good spot for the Rams to cover. So I think I'm gonna lay off this one.
Yeah, I want to bet the Raiders, and I think the fact I want to bet them is why I'm not going to. I mean, we talked about it. They were 7th in EPA per play coming into today. They are fundamentally a very good offense, even with the injuries they've had. Their defense is atrocious, but has played much better of late. I agree with Arjun 100% where you're buying at an absolute high. You're buying, Sam Bankman-Fried at a peak right now. I don't think I can do it. I think I got to lay off.
We need to do a whole podcast on Sam Bankman-Fried. That guy's you don't want to be compared to Sam Bankman-Fried, but I think it's
Never.
fair.
Never.
By the way, this being played in Los Angeles, I would hypothesize there will be a lot more Raiders fans in LA than there will be Rams fans for this game. Nothing fades away faster than fans in Los Angeles when your team starts to suck. It basically, unless you're the Lakers, and even the Lakers can start a little bit. I'm laying off this one as well. I think if I had to pick this game, I will take the Rams at home with Sean McVay over Josh McDaniels, catching 5.5. All right. Sunday morning or Sunday early slate. We'll start with Cleveland at Cincinnati.
So I made this Browns +6.
I had Cincy laying 5.5.
I have the Cincinnati Bengals by 5, and it is Cincy by 4.5 is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I really do like the Bengals in this spot. I was kind of fading the Bengals all off season, just worried about Joe Burrow, but he's really impressed me, like to the point where I feel comfortable backing him in this spot. Beating the Chiefs, at home obviously is a big thing, and now they'll get the Browns at home. Deshaun Watson didn't look that good today against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They couldn't run the ball against one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. And Bengals getting a guy like DJ Reader back, who I don't think they had in the Week 9 matchup is also big for the rushing attack of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt with that interior offensive line. And Bengals have their full receiver core back, and that's something they didn't have in the Browns game. So I think Bengals roll in this game. I love them at 4.5, and I think that's one of my favorite spots this weekend.
Yeah, Watson was horrific today. I remember looking at one point I think the Browns had 24 points and none of them were on offense. It was like a punt return, a fumble recovery, and maybe another fumble recovery, and then they kicked the field goal. We talked earlier about how the Chiefs just some reason cannot beat the Bengals. Joe Burrow has never beat the Browns in his young career in Cincinnati. They just do not match up well. I think it's an issue of Myles Garrett can take over games, and then they have the outside corner duo with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome now on the outside. So I'm gonna lay off this one as much as I do like it. It has not been a matchup that's worked out for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I actually like it the other way, right? I like the Browns. The problem is can't do it. Absolutely can't do it. Bill Cosby could have played better out there than Deshaun Watson did today. Yeah, absolutely brutal. Yeah, I'd rather just like, I don't know, buy myself something than bet on the Cleveland Browns going forward. So even though I think they're the right side here, if you just kind of wipe away all the other stuff, they're the right side here in this spot. But I'm going to lay off as well. Philly and New York, a little NFC East battle in New York, Giants, Eagles. What do you make this, Arjun?
So I went Eagles -7.
I had Eagles -6.5.
I had Eagles -6.5 as well. I couldn't push it all the way to 7. I am seeing Eagles by 6.5 -115. So it's kind of in between the three of us. Arjun, what are you doing with this?
I love this as a teaser leg for like if we want to tease it with something else. I mean, I could honestly like it at the -7. There is no one on this Giants team without Adoree Jackson that's going to guard AJ Brown, who had an absurd day today against the Titans, and Terry McLaurin, 100 yards and a touchdown against this Giants secondary. I think the Eagles offense rolls. I get a little bit worried about their run defense against Saquon Barkley, but I do like teasing this down to -1 and teasing it with something else.
Could not agree more. Yeah, I love this as a teaser leg. I think they'll win the game, but I struggle to get to a full touchdown in MetLife. But at the same time, you get Giants coming off a full 10-minute overtime. A tie in the NFC Beast was what we all needed. Yeah, so I'll keep an eye out for a teaser leg to pair with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think, again, I hate to say this, but I tend to agree with everything here. I mean, I still do feel that Philly is the best team in the NFC. Better than the Cowboys, better than the Niners with Brock Purdy. But 6.5 on the road in the division is a lot. It is. And the Giants were down in that game against Washington, came back. So yeah, I'm laying off, and I'm not even sure if I had to choose a side of this, that I think I would choose. I would take the Giants at home, getting 6.5 there. As much as I hate that, Jets and Mike White go to Buffalo to play the Bills. Arjun,
I made this Jets +8.5.
I had Jets +10.
Jets +10 as well, and it is Bills, or I should say Jets +9.5, -106, Bills -9.5, -114. So again, pretty close to what we have here.
Yeah, I know I'm shorter on this line, but yeah, I don't really feel comfortable betting the Jets here. For a large portion of that game, they were losing by double digits to the Vikings. Bills, kind of steamrolled the Patriots. It feels like they're gaining some traction now, especially after their win on Thanksgiving. So I don't really feel comfortable betting either side of this.
For the Vikings to have McCorkle look as good as he did against their defense, like, we know who Mike White is, but he was bad today. Really bad. And so that makes me think, are the Bills going to do what they just did to the Patriots this week on Thursday, which is basically just Mac Jones could not throw the ball beyond 5 yards, and then they have a solid enough run defense and just shut you down and win in a similar fashion, win this game 24-10 type of game. I would lean Buffalo here, even with a big number. They beat him already, good defensive line, all those things. I'm going to wait till the Deion Dawkins injury news comes out because I think that did bother them against New England. But I would lean Buffalo here. I mean, Mike White is terrible. We knew that.
While I'm with you, the Jets defense is like pretty good, and I know defense is less predictable than offense. But without Von Miller, as bad as Mike White was, he wasn't Zach Wilson bad. So that means there's a chance for them to cover. So I'm going to lay off this one as well. Baltimore, Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Arjun.
Okay. I feel like I'm going to be off market here, but I made this Ravens -1.
And is this, are we assuming Tyler Huntley here?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to preface that I'm also assuming Tyler Huntley, and I actually made it Ravens +2.
Oh, interesting. I'm assuming Tyler Huntley. I went Ravens by 3. I am a Tyler Huntley believer. It is Steelers -1.5 here. Although I should say juiced in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I think Lamar Jackson's great. I think, there's few quarterbacks who kind of like are the engine of their offense more than Lamar. But I also think that Tyler Huntley's one of the best backups in the NFL. And like last year, the Ravens did see a little bit of a downgrade, but I don't think Huntley's like that bad to where he can't beat the Steelers team. I mean, it's a tough one, divisional game on the road, but I think Huntley, like if he has a full week to prep, knowing he's the starter, Ravens are one of the smartest teams in the NFL and can put him in a position to succeed. I think the Ravens get it done. So I like them. What was the line? -1 or +1.5 for the Ravens? Mm-hmm. Yeah, +1.5.
So the Steelers defense, which is interesting, are top 10 in EPA per rush allowed, actually 4th in success rate against the run, both against top 10 against scrambles and design rushes. So a very good run defense on the season, which gives me pause. Whether it's Lamar Jackson or Huntley, obviously that's going to be the focal point. But this is a spot where I think we're also maybe buying high or the market is now overcorrected towards Pittsburgh. I'm going to tease Philadelphia with the Ravens here. So Philadelphia down to 0.5, Ravens up to +7.5.
I was going to say this. I love the Ravens teaser. Like, I think Tyler Huntley is about as good of a backup as you can have. Now, here were some of his, I say that. Here are some of the data points for him last year. He had 3 big-time throws and 8 turnover-worthy plays on, 245 dropbacks. In case anyone is wondering, that's not good. So, that his PFF grade on this 245 dropbacks was 62. So honestly, could have been way worse. Like with that big-time throw to turnover-worthy play ratio, it probably should have been way worse. Remember here, though, the Ravens, when Tyler Huntley was playing, were banged up as all hell. So I think that this is saying the market feels Kenny Pickett is significantly better than Tyler Huntley. I'm going to go ahead and fade that noise, and I'm going to take the Ravens here. But I love the teaser, Brad. I think I'm hesitant to tease Philly, so we'll see what other teasers come out here. Houston and the Cowboys in Dallas. Arjun?
I went Cowboys -17.
I love it. I really don't blame you at all. I went 14. Cowboys -14.5.
I had 17.5. Houston is the Browns. The Browns defense stinks, and they looked like the 85 Bears on the steroids that Liver King is taking today. So it is Cowboys -16.5, -115.
So yeah, the thing with the Cowboys is they're, I would arguably say, the best team in the NFL right now at extending leads. So once they go up 9 or 10, 14, they'll push that lead out. Like, they have no mercy. We saw that today where they dropped 33 points in the final quarter, right? Like, they really don't give a shit about the mercy rule or whatever. Like they will keep piling on points. So 16.5 seems like the right number. That's a lot of points. So I'm gonna lay off there, but I think that is like the perfect line for this game.
It's a very good point, though, when you're talking about betting in these big spreads. I mean, their defensive line is so good, but also so deep to where you see Sam Williams, the rookie, come in, or Dorrance Armstrong, or insert player here, and they keep just piling on the points. Yeah, 33-0. The record, for folks wondering, is 41 points in a quarter. I had to Google that. The Rams did it back in 1950. Yeah, I'm not going to bet it. It's a massive spread, but I'm telling you, I am not convinced Houston is trying to win football games right now.
No, but
I don't think they are.
They're definitely not. I'm gonna lay off only because the tendency, I think, for people to get really excited about the Cowboys here, but yeah, that's not going to be good. Jacksonville, Tennessee, in Tennessee. Jags owe us one. Okay, I don't know how we got bamboozled. Tage Seth came on this here podcast and told us, look, the Lions are not going to be able to figure it out after that near victory against Buffalo. And it turns out the team that was unable to handle any sort of type of competitive game were the Jaguars, who had a competitive game. They ended up winning. Trevor Lawrence gets hurt in that game. Tennessee also got their teeth kicked in against the Eagles. So I'm curious where you guys have this, Arjun.
I made this Jaguars plus 3.5.
I had Tennessee -4.
Yeah, Tennessee -4 as well, and it is Tennessee -3.5, -114. So done a very nice job of predicting the market thus far, which means that there are not a lot of bets to be made. But Arjun, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I lost too much money on the Jags today, betting them pregame, betting them plus 7.5, plus 14.5. I just thought the Lions defense would break, and it just didn't. Jags just couldn't get anything going. This is a tough matchup for them. I mean, Titans are one of the best at stopping the run, forcing the Jags into these like expected pass situations. And then I don't know, the Jags receivers have had their moments, but like, do we really trust them against a pretty solid Titan secondary, which always overperforms? I don't know. Jaguars going on the road for this game, and they just could not get off the field on third down, which scares me. Like this defense has been bad for weeks now, and I think this could be a great get right game for like Derrick Henry and the rest of this Titans offense.
Yeah, we also, we don't know the full extent of Lawrence. Obviously came back in the game, but their defense has been really, really bad. They were top 10 in e-paper play allowed the first month. They are bottom 5 since. And it's not really injury related. They've just been bad. I'm tempted to take Tennessee here, but I've been fading them all year and don't really believe in them either. So I'm going to lay off here. I got to get some bets on the board, but it's an AFC South Classic we got coming here.
I am sort of tempted to roll with the Titans. I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. I'm rolling with the Titans. They're not that bad of a team. The Jaguars, on the other hand, this matchup concerns me. Jeffrey Simmons in the middle against that Jaguars offensive line, and a little bit of a banged up Trevor Lawrence. This is just this classic AFC South Tennessee Titans rumble fest, and I feel like I owe the printing press here. So let's get it back on track. Minnesota, Detroit. The Lions are officially in the hunt. I am very interested with what you guys made this line. I went back and forth. Arjun.
So I made this Vikings -1.
I had -1.5.
I have this as a pick. It's in Detroit. The Vikings are fine, but I think we're lying to ourselves. I think they're really a team as good as their record. It is, let's see here. It is Vikings by 1.5. That is -104. The Lions plus 1.5 is -118.
Yeah, so I will be betting the Lions in this spot. I feel like I might be buying them high, but I don't know. I've seen enough from this offense to where I really do believe in what they're doing. They're going to get hopefully integrate Jameson Williams back a little bit more. In addition to that, I will be betting every Amon-Ra St. Brown over there is in this game. the Vikings for weeks now have struggled to contain number one receivers. Stephon Diggs going for over 100, Garrett Wilson at 163, Devontae Parker 80, CeeDee Lamb, had it not been a blowout, would have gotten more yards. I think he ended at 45. Like, the Vikings just can't slow down number one receivers. And I don't know. I think their game today, like, obviously a lot of people thought the Jets should have won, but I think the Vikings actually had an okay day. But I think Lions match up very well in this game, and I do like them in this spot at home.
Super underrated too. They get Jameson Williams back, which obviously is a huge deal. But Romeo Okwara is the best pass rusher on the Lions, right? And they get him back, and no one's talking about it. I'd be lying if I said I paid attention to him specifically today. I need to go back and watch him play. But I mean, it's a massive addition mid-season on top of JMO. They're another teaser leg for me, though. I don't know if I'm taking the money line, but another teaser leg. I don't think they're going to lose this game by more than a touchdown at home.
Yes, I love the teaser here for the Lions. Getting them out to 7.5. I will tease that with the Baltimore Ravens out to 7.5 as well. I found the teaser that's going to resurrect us after last week's teaser, which shall go unnamed because the Jaguars were a part of it. It's interesting that the Lions, predictably so, have started to play well once it was like, okay, well, you guys suck, actually. And like, everyone was like, the Lions are kind of cute. Are they going to be, competitors this year? And it's like, oh no, the Lions suck. And then as soon as everyone says the Lions suck, it's like, no, now it's time for us to get people a little bit excited, just a tip, just for a second, just to see how it feels. I don't think the wheels come off in this game is what I'm saying. Kansas City, Denver. The Denver Broncos almost won a football game today. Lamar Jackson got hurt. The Denver Broncos also almost scored 10 points, which was super impressive. I think that the Denver Broncos scored about as many points as there were points scored in the World Cup today. It was just supremely impressive. This is in Denver, the site of Patrick Mahomes' first start ever in the NFL. Arjun?
Yeah, I went Chiefs -8.
I had Chiefs -9.5.
I had Chiefs. I thought I could make this bigger. I ended up going Chiefs 8.5. But you could have told me this will be 10.5, 11. I wouldn't be surprised. It is 8.5.
Yeah. So I'm not betting the spread in this game. I did want to highlight Broncos are 10-1 to the under this year, which is really crazy. And the total for this game is 42.5. Like, I wonder if someone in the chat or like on Twitter can like find if that's the lowest total for any Patrick Mahomes game ever that isn't in like non-playable conditions. I don't know if there's ever been a game for Mahomes like that, but the Broncos, like, they just keep games under. Number one, because Russell Wilson can't move the ball or score, but two, like their defense, while I think has regressed a little bit, like, is still very good. So I feel like if anything, the under would be the play here just to keep it rolling. It is on FanDuel 42.5 shaded towards the under, but that's like the only like major bet I would have on this game.
It's interesting. I mean, you want to bet like Kansas City motivated coming off a loss, but I'm not sure I like that angle. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, as bad as Denver is, it's just when the total, your total makes me not want to take Kansas City -8.5 with a total of 42.5 on the road. So I'm probably laying off this one as well.
Low total, much better team. Tease me, baby. Chiefs down to 2.5. I mean, the Broncos have a nice defense, but I think Kansas City can put up 14 points, in which case they should have no problem figuring out how to cover the teaser of 2.5. So I'm adding that. By the way, the total of 42.5 is very low. It pales in comparison to the total of the upcoming game that we're going to talk about, which is Bucks Niners. So we're going to get Tom Brady's going to come back to San Francisco, get to play the team he's going to play for next year in San Francisco. So it should be a fun one. Arjun, the total is 37.5. What are you making? That's hilarious. What are you making the spread in this one?
Yeah, I went Bucks +3.
I went Niners minus 4.5.
So Brock Purdy is
Oh,
going to be. It's going to
Forgot
be.
about Purdy. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, that was a pre-Purdy. Go ahead.
I mean, I think it's right that San Francisco. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I made it San Francisco by 1.5. I mean, it's Brock freaking Purdy. Come on. How much are we going to give Kyle Shanahan here? I mean, that is ridiculous. It is Niners by 3, and it's minus 112.
Look, this Buccaneers offense is terrible. Like I think so for the first like 4 or 5 weeks on the year, I was like kind of like giving them some time. Like Brady, had his offseason things, figuring it out, live betting them at times, losing money on them. And I think we're at a point 13 weeks in the season where we can just say this is a bad offense. Putting up 17 points against the Browns with pretty much your entire plethora of weapons healthy, that is like unacceptable if you're Tom Brady or the play caller. The Niners shut down possibly the most explosive, possibly even the best offense in the league when fully healthy, even though they were missing their top 2 tackles. The Niners had one of their best defensive performances of the year, and I think they will do a very good job of like taking away Brady's looks and his weapons. I don't know. I think the under is probably the only play here, but I don't really feel comfortable betting a side because if I bet the side, I think it's going to push since I'll probably take the Niners.
Well, you mentioned missing tackles, so Tristan Wirfs is not going to play in this game, so that is a massive loss for the Buccaneers, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the under, we laughed about the 34 or 34.5 for Denver, Carolina, and the under cashed with zero sweat.
Yeah.
So I honestly think the 37.5, I think the under here is the play, if anything.
Yeah, the Tristan Wirfs thing is terrifying. Am I really? So here's what I'll say about this. I'm going to the Bucks play New Orleans Monday night. We're obviously taping this on Sunday night. I'm going to wait for that game. I think that the Bucks are going to play like dog shit as they always do against New Orleans Saints. So I wonder if this moves out 3.5, 4, and I'm going to grab it. But if I'm going to get, I don't care if I'm playing tackle for Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady versus Brock freaking Purdy. I am taking Tom Brady. Carolina, Seattle. In Seattle. Who the hell is starting at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers here? I made this line as if it was going to be Sam freaking Darnold. But is it PJ? Are we going back to PJ Walker? What's the story, Brad?
I could not tell you. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold. They're just trying to get some juice out of the squeeze. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. Arjun, what do you make this?
I went Seahawks minus 6.
I had Seattle minus 5.5.
Yeah, it's Seattle minus 6.5, and it is 5.5.
Yeah, I just want to, I want to just rant. So we got by midweek, we had about like 20% closing line value on the Seahawks minus 4.5. That was like one of my favorite plays. Even before the Aaron Donald news, moves that to minus 8, gets bet down to 6.5, and the Seahawks were about to lose that game outright. Like I was just like so like triggered about how that game went on, and like I just didn't expect John Wolford and Cam Akers to do what they did against that defense. So I'm kind of like over the Seahawks. Like, yeah, they had their magical run, but like, why you could have covered this game and made it a fun week for me. So I'm just gonna lay off.
Classic, like you blew my elite CLV play, so you're dead to me. We've all been there. Yeah, I mean, I think their defense has been exposed. I talked about this on the radio today. The first month of the season, they were second to last, ahead of only Detroit in EPA per play, and they had this stretch of good play for 5 or 6 weeks. But you go back and look at the quarterbacks they played, and yes, they played John Wolford today, but it kind of paints the picture of were they playing much better football or were they just playing worse quarterbacks? And I think the answer is the latter. So at the same time, I'm still kind of tempted here. I mean, Carolina is just so bad. And they're not going to stress the Seattle Seahawks defense through the air at all. And that's kind of what teams have been doing besides the great Cam Akers. I need to get some bets in. So I'm going to take Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks in a bounce back here. They didn't cover. People like Arjun are pissed off at them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to now hop back on them and take them less than 6.
I'm not going to bet this one. I like Arjun. I'm still smarting from this debacle of a Seahawks result. But in the chat, I've been notified that the great Josh Johnson signed by San Francisco. Josh
Perfect.
Johnson. That's the savior. I mean, I'll say this. I'll be picking him up in fantasy. But that makes me a little more confident in the Niners' future. Miami got flexed into Sunday night with the Chargers. This one is in Los Angeles. The expectation is that Tua is playing in this game. I don't know about Waddle or Armstead though, Brad. What do you know there?
Yeah, my understanding is Waddle is less injured or less at risk than Armstead. But Armstead's a warrior and has played through a lot. So it could be both, but it could also be maybe just Waddle.
Okay. Arjun, what'd you make?
I went Dolphins -5.
I knew it was going to.
How did I know that was going to happen?
I will tell you why. I will tell you why.
Can't wait.
Yeah, you'll tell us why at the end. Yeah, we know why. I will say, to the Feds, after giving you a hard time, I had it at Miami -4, and then after the game today, I did a George, and I pulled them down to Miami -2.5.
You're smart. That's what I did as well. I have Miami -2.5. That's the right line. And that's what it is. Although it is juiced a little bit here. So Chargers +2.5 -114. Arjun, go ahead. Tell the people why the Los Angeles Football Superchargers / Clippers are such frauds.
This is going to be my biggest play of the season. Like I bet this like before recording. Like I had to take a peek at this line just because like I needed to bet it. Look, the Chargers, for all the expectations they had, are a bad football team. Their point differential is worse than the Carolina freaking Panthers and Atlanta Falcons. And they have Justin Herbert at quarterback.
What a pull.
They just lost to the Oakland Raiders, who were 4-7 heading into this game by 7 points. Should have been a 14-point loss, except Justin Herbert's an alien and threw a 40-yard touchdown like on a rope outside of the pocket to Keenan Allen, where maybe only 2 other quarterbacks can make that throw. They go up against the Dolphins defense that loves to blitz. This Chargers defense just allowed Chandler Jones to sack Justin Herbert 2 times. Heading into this game, Chandler Jones had 0.5 sacks on the season. Him and Max Crosby combined for 18 pressures. And former Chargers legend, bust Jerry Tillery, had 4 pressures in this game. If Corey Linsley does not play in this game, Justin Herbert is going to end up on the ground 10+ times, unless something magically happens with this offensive line. Keenan Allen had little to no separation against Amik Robertson in the slot, which is very discouraging. And this Chargers defense sucks. Outside of the pick 6, Derek Carr averaged 0.21 EPA per play, and Josh Jacobs had a positive EPA per rush on the ground. Tua was bad today, but I've given him credit that he's looked good for most of the year. The Chargers have a top 5 missed tackle rate on run plays and passing plays. And now they go up against one of the best teams in terms of forcing missed tackles, even though the Dolphins aren't big on yak. There is literally no advantage for the Chargers in this game except they have the better quarterback. They have the Dolphin scheme better than the Chargers scheme. I think they're going to roll. I hope that handicap helps some people in the chat because I just don't see a way that the Chargers win this game at all.
That was an absolute masterpiece because you still managed to get a couple Herbert, boosts in there, which our Warren did. The throw was a seed to Keenan Allen today. But yeah, the Tua versus Herbert Reply Guy Bowl revenge game of the year coming up on Sunday Night Football. I'm with you though. I agree. If Lindsey doesn't play, Christian Wilkins has become an underrated player. Bradley Chubb was more involved today. They were moving him around a little bit along the defensive line. I think he did end up with a sack. I know he had a couple of quarterback hits in the game today. It is not a good matchup for the Chargers in any way, shape, or form. Mike McDaniel attacks the middle of the field better than anyone in the NFL. The Chargers obviously and Brandon Staley play a ton of quarter, half, and cover 2, and play a lot of 2 high safety. the physicality up front, all those things. It's just not a good matchup. Even if there are some minor Dolphins injuries, I will ride with you on this one, Arjun. I was excited for this breakdown from you.
There's no other way. But by the way, I feel like we should ask OpenAI's Chat GPT, which hopefully everyone here has seen, to describe the Los Angeles Chargers, because I wonder if they get it. Are they woke to the way that people treat the Chargers? I would love to hear that from them. I'm joining you. There's no other way. We can't, we win and we lose as a team. And we've got to ride here on this one. The Panthers point differential, Falcons point differential was the one that got me. That's just incredible. Patriots Cardinals on Monday Night Football closes out Week 14. Arjun, would you make the spread?
I went Patriots -1.
Same here.
I have the New England Patriots. Where do I have it? By 1.5. And it is Patriots by 1.5, but juiced -105. So Cardinals plus 1.5 is -115. Arjun?
Do you think this would be a good teaser leg for the Cardinals or no?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I don't have that same kind of, I don't know, fear of the Patriots defense. And obviously everyone's going to talk about the Belichick struggling with running quarterbacks narrative, but I just think that the Cardinals offense, like with Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins, is solid.
I don't mind it either, Arjun. I mean, J.J. Watt also is going to demoralize Cole Strange, or if David Andrews can't play at center, the interior has had some shakiness the last couple of weeks. So I like the teaser leg.
All righty. I guess we're aligned there. Does anyone want to bet the spread?
No,
I
mean, there are like statistical advantages for the Cardinals. Like Hopkins and Marquise Brown are probably better than whatever the Patriots are going to throw at them. But also, I know Belichick's coaching advantage has kind of gone down in recent years. But him versus Kingsbury, I don't know. That seems like something that Belichick would be able to take advantage of. But I mean, this Patriots offense is just so bad. And I don't know if the Cardinals are the right defense to kind of expose them, but it's just a weird game. So I only feel comfortable betting that it's going to be a one-score game.
Yeah, I'm with you guys there. All right, that is Week 14. We'll go right up our favorite picks, and you can find those on PFF's app and PFF.com. If you're listening to this on a Monday, it's probably already up there. And if you were joining us live, members of the printing press, we love you and appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you on Wednesday evening.